What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And Chantel Christie from Basketball Wives has issued a statement after her physical altercation with her mother, Jackie. As we can see here, they got into it, and it's unfortunate, but I want you guys to, of course, hear the statement from Chantel, and I'll give my thoughts at the end. She says, I'll start by saying, if you've never dealt with a toxic mother, then you truly have no idea what it feels like. As painful as it's been to watch these moments of my life play out on TV, I know my younger self is proud of the woman who finally stood up for herself. The truth is, this dynamic isn't rare. It happens in more families than we'd like to admit. Narcissism, jealousy, lies, lack of accountability, gaslighting, abuse, hiding assault, etc. We're just taught to keep it in house and suffer in silence. I chose to break that cycle. What you witnessed was a masterclass in narcissism. Someone lighting the fire behind the scenes, then walking away so you look like the arsonist. I know what really happened on and off camera all season long, so no, the internet cannot bully me into submission. Y'all know the TV character, I know the mother. She touched my arm, I pushed her off of me. She swung, plain and simple. It's unfortunate things played out this way, and I wish it never happened. But if you know our history, then you know this was a long time coming. I may not be proud of all my choices this season, but I'm also not ashamed. This is my real life, and I doubt anyone judging me lives a perfect one. I see the hate mail, I see the judgment, but I also see all the messages that say, I've dealt with this too. This reminds me so much of my situation. To those of you with heart and understanding, I see you, and I appreciate your vulnerability. To those of you who met me with threats, vile statements, and extreme judgment, may you never understand my plight. Celebrating my darkest moments says more about you than it ever will about me. I've always been misunderstood, and this chapter of my life is no different. But I will answer to God, not imperfect strangers who've never walked a step in my shoes. I will keep my head up and my peace and focus as I continue to grow as a mother, a wife, and a woman. Signed, CCJ. So let's go ahead and unpack this, right? I haven't reviewed, Basketball Wives on this channel, but this clip has just been continuously, all up and down my social media feed. And when I watched the fight between Jackie and Chantel yesterday, I was debating on whether or not to bring it to you guys yesterday, but I wanted, some time to kind of think on it. And then after Chantel put out her statement, I was just like, okay, she's had time to kind of cool down and, put together a cohesive written statement. So I wanted, to bring that to the channel. And if Jackie writes one, I'll bring her side as well. But I'll say this. Um, it's unfortunate that, when Chantel was initially leaving, after Jackie asked her to leave the room, after their argument, that she turned around at the door and came back. I feel like Chantel is somebody who has been neglected throughout her childhood and throughout her life. She said that she grew up with her grandmother. Her other sister, wrote a book about Jackie. And Jackie, to me, is somebody who seems very male centered, and she focuses most of her time and attention on her husband, which is, that's great, but it should not be at the expense of her children. Like the fact that, she's married to a basketball player, but yet, didn't raise all of her kids, allowed her mom to raise her kids. That's criminal negligence, in my opinion, right? And it's heartbreaking because, like I said, it's not like they didn't have the means to do it. So that's, in my opinion, it's criminal, and it leaves a child with feeling abandoned. Then she talks about, how her mother is, a master manipulator, gaslighter, etc. Now, I'm not going to put all this on Jackie because at some point Chantel has to realize that if this person in your life is so toxic, then you need to remove yourself away from them. There's no reason why Chantel should be on this show, except, like I said, I feel like those wounds, abandonment wounds, and she has not, felt heard by her mother, manifests itself in situations like this. I feel like Jackie sees Chantel as a threat, and I also feel like Chantel is acting out in order to get her mother's attention because she was neglected as a child. I feel like they would both do very well in family therapy, um, if they could, even get to that point. But Chantel being on this show, whether it's to get her lick back at Jackie, of course, now we know not only figuratively but literally, it's not a good environment. You know, it's a toxic work environment for her to be there when that gaping mother wound is so unhealed. And then she talks about, how people who have, parents who are not necessarily good parents, or whether they're negligent, whether they're toxic, etc. She said that she's, had people reach say that they've dealt with that too. I can relate to having parents who were not, present, who were negligent, who were toxic, had their own unhealed wounds, right, from childhood. Being black in this country or even in this world, period, is traumatic. And so you really have to, I feel like you really have to do the work to heal those wounds, not to pass them on to the other generation. So for me, like I've, done the work, continuously doing the work, have forgiven my parents, and would not, well, my father's passed, my mother's still alive, but I wouldn't want to put myself in a situation where violence would occur. Um, you just have to love people from afar. Sometimes, like you have to heal, forgive, and move forward with your life. Because if you don't, then it bubbles up. That resentment comes out in a physical manifestation, in a fist fight here on national TV, which is heartbreaking. I absolutely can relate to growing up. A lot of times, especially in the boomer generation, parents are taught, kids should be seen, not heard. There was just a lot of negativity, and only from my mother, though not from my grandmother. That's the gag. My grandmother, and a lot of people in my family have said that I was my grandmother's favorite grandchild. But my grandmother and I got along great. So, and again, I feel like that added to the resentment, in my own family dynamic. But my mother and I have it's like oil and water. But what I've decided to do is just separate myself from that situation, just love her from afar. Now, the other thing that helps, um, and I hope that Chantel can continue on her healing journey, is to just allow the Lord, if she's a Christian, I am, to allow the Lord to, handle the whole situation, right? The whole let go and let God thing. Um, it's cliche, but there's many times where I read, like Psalm 27:10, King David, when he says, when my mother and father forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Like that scripture has brought me so much comfort over the years. And our God, He really does have our back. Like if we pray to Him in regards to people who have hurt us, He handles it much better than we ever could. The whole book of Psalms is pretty much King David running from his life, from not only his own son, talk about a toxic family, his son was trying to take him out, Absalom, But he also had King Saul and his army. So you had the king, King David sleeping in caves and, just out there, trying to survive when he's public enemy number one. And he's writing one of the most beautiful books of poetry, in the Bible. So um, she's not alone in that aspect of suffering. I feel like to be human is to suffer, you know. But God also said, vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. I feel like when we lay those, broken hearts, I mean, the Lord said that he doesn't, despise a broken and contrite heart. He's next to us during that time of pain. But when we lay all those things down at his feet, he handles them so much better than we could, right? Instead of fist fighting our parent who, hurt us um, on national television, one of the best things you can do is, just pray for them and live your life to the best of your ability and just allow the Lord to deal with their shortcomings and faults and flaws. And I feel like, and listen, it's easier said than done because, there's been, a whole lot of, arguments and just toxic situations, that I can remember growing up. But at some point, you have to take responsibility. Like, you have to, especially now, her being a mother herself, like, you have to heal those wounds because what happens if you don't? Then that cycle repeats itself. Like you want to break those generational curses. You want to be so much better, so much more present and healed, and pour into your child all the love that you feel like you missed out on because your mother and or father didn't have the capacity. And that's another thing I want to bring up. Child, where was Doug in all of this? Like, I know Jackie called him after they fought, and she was really upset. But just throughout her entire childhood, like, where's the smoke for your father? I'm not saying that your mom was a perfect parent, but there needs to be a level of accountability and responsibility for your father. Doug, I mean, he helped bring you into this world, and it takes two to tango. It takes two to raise a child. It really takes a village to raise a child. And this is from somebody who doesn't even have kids yet, but it's not easy to raise human beings out here. But I feel like instead of having so much anger and animosity for Jackie solely, um, there needs to be some type of accountability to be had from Mr. Doug Christie as well. But anyway, those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know yours in the comment section. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.